Take a look at this picture. At first glance, does it seem in any way strange? What if I told you that a few years before this photo was taken, that iron bar shot straight through this man's head?
Phineas Gage is a 25-year-old railroad worker in the town of Cavendish, Vermont.
Phineas is a professional, hardworking, brilliant citizen.
His specialty is explosives, because they need to lay down railroad track, you have to blow up a lot of rock. And so he's the guy that sets the charge.
As part of Phineas's job, he has a 3.5-foot iron bar that he uses to tamp down the gunpowder.
But it's very, very, very dangerous work because it's black powder. Black powder can go off like that.
He strikes the rock just so with his rod, creates a spark.
That tamping iron essentially became the bullet.
It shoots upward, and it goes right into his cheek, passes behind his left eye, and then out the top of his head through the frontal left lobe. It flies 80 feet away from the explosion.
Everyone is absolutely certain the man is dead. To the shock of his crewmates, he stands up, starts walking around, asking what happened. He doesn't seem particularly alarmed because the tapered end of the bar exits his skull. He is spared greater brain damage than he otherwise would have suffered.
Doctors manage to stop the bleeding, but they wonder, what are the long-term consequences?
Phineas was known as an easygoing, likable guy before his injury. The person who returns to the railroad crew is argumentative, abrasive.
He's irritable, short-tempered, impulsive, and he's kind of a jerk to everybody around him.
He's prone to alcoholism and violence, and we could say definitively these are two different people.
Gage becomes kind of a medical curiosity, and people are wondering how on earth he survives, and also what is it that has changed his personality. And it's really, in some ways, the beginning of neuroscience.
The way the rod goes through his brain, it pierces an area of the brain that controls emotional responses.
The frontal lobes. Frontal lobes are really super important for behavioral control. When Phineas severely damages his frontal lobes, it's like a brake has been taken off of his behavioral regulator. And it is not uncommon with patients that have frontal lobe damage that they act impulsively, they can act aggressively.
Prior to this, people thought personality was sort of like an extension of your soul. It was some sort of ethereal part of you that, you had to work on all the time, as opposed to something that literally came out of synapses and cells and things in your brain.
However, temper tantrums are just one possible side effect of a brain injury.
One of the consequences of certain types of head injury is pseudobulbar affect. Essentially, that results in inappropriate laughter or crying without any sort of emotional context.
In Hollywood, we call this Tuesday, but there's an even more unusual medical condition brought on by a brain injury: foreign accent syndrome.
I woke up this morning, I didn't do anything different, and all of a sudden I was talking in an Irish accent.
A victim of brain trauma in Australia recovers, retains the ability of speech, but starts to speak in an Irish brogue.
I can't shake it.
It's a bizarre phenomenon, and just one of the many strange secrets the curious case of Phineas Gage begins to unlock.
What I find fascinating about the Phineas Gage case is that 175 years later, scientists are still studying his case. He is that important in the history of our understanding of the human brain.
What eventually becomes of Phineas Gage?
Because of the changing character that transpires in Phineas, he can no longer get along on crew work. And he actually finds work driving a stagecoach in South America in the nation of Chile.